My father refused to attend my graduation. Then I found out why. My father and I had always had a complicated relationship. He believed success meant having a traditional career. I wanted something completely different. I decided to become a chef. He hated the idea. He told me I'd regret wasting my education. We argued about it for years. Eventually, I enrolled in culinary school. When graduation day came, I invited my entire family. My mother said she'd be there. My sister said she'd be there. My father simply said, "I don't think I can make it." I was hurt, but I didn't push him. Graduation came. Everyone was there except him. After the ceremony, my mother handed me an envelope. She said, "Your father asked me to give you this after you graduated." Inside was a letter. He wrote that he had always been afraid I'd struggle. He said his anger wasn't because he thought I was incapable. It was because he was scared I'd choose a difficult life and get hurt. Then he admitted something I'd never known. When I was a child, my grandfather had owned a small restaurant. It had eventually failed. My father had watched his parents lose almost everything. That's why he'd always been terrified of me entering the food business. At the end of the letter he wrote, "I wanted to protect you from the life I watched destroy my father." I cried, not because he hadn't attended, because I finally understood why. A few months later, I opened a small restaurant with 2 friends. The first year was difficult. There were slow weeks, equipment problems, and nights when I wondered if my father had been right. Then one evening I looked toward the dining room. My father was sitting at a table. He hadn't told me he was coming. He'd quietly driven 3 hours to visit. After dinner he stood up and said, "I still worry about you." Then he smiled. "But I'm proud of you." That was the first time he'd ever said those words. My restaurant eventually became successful, but even if it hadn't, I'd still remember that night. Sometimes parents don't know how to support the path you choose. Sometimes their fear comes out looking like disappointment. And sometimes, understanding where that fear came from changes everything.